Hey world, what up? I'm gonna hit it off part two here on the Blake Griffin buyout from the Detroit Pistons, but most importantly, him signing with the Brooklyn Nets, pretty much having a core four. Not really a big four, but he's still a big name, even though he's had a downfall season with the Detroit Pistons. Him going to the Brooklyn Nets is going to have a resurgence back to his career, and he was never washed with the Pistons due to injury, let alone when you're your fourth year with the Detroit Pistons, who's been a trap shoot as it is. He needs to get out of there. So he's going to be resurged with the Brooklyn Nets on a high standard, but within his role, he's going to have to take on that Dwight Howard 2.0 with the LA Lakers in 2020, coming off the bench to be that five, that center, and pretty much not do too much offensively. But we'll see how Steve Nash kicks on there. On part two, I like to kick it here on Undisputed on the Skip and Shannon FS1 series sports show. You know, when I usually cover with the first one, part one, when I did First Things First, that goes a little more in depth. It's somewhat elementary, but on Undisputed, they like to go more in depth with things. I really like that round talk, so we'll dive a little more deeper. Same thing with Speak for Yourself. They do that, and then First Take, it's more of a two-dimensional basis. So this is pretty much the only sports show that goes that in depth alongside FS1's Speak for Yourself um, within that show. So I'm gonna jump into here. I already given my case about my feelings about. Actually, let me backtrack. Not my feelings, but kind of my analysis of Blake Griffin joining the Nets. Let me give a quick recap, and we'll jump into here. But essentially, he only had really three options. You really had the Nets, the Lakers. You could throw out the Clippers, but the Miami Heat. And he had to join a contender. So if you're looking at any team to win the championship, it's pretty much either going to be the Nets, the Lakers, or the Clippers. I'm not buying the Utah Jazz in the playoffs to be that threat. They're going to be somewhat like a 2015 Atlanta Hawks, to where they'll be a number one seed, but they'll pretty much get bounced in the second round. If they get to the conference finals, that'll be impressive, but they'll be bounced. They're not going to represent the Western Conference. So if he had to join the Nets, Lakers, or the Clippers, the LA Clippers do have Zubac. They do have Serge Ibaka, Nicholas Batum running the four, and going a little further within that. So Blake Griffin to the Clippers doesn't make sense on a two-dimensional basis when it comes to user basketball roles. You do have the Steve Ballmer incident, and alongside with that, he's not going to go back to LA within that situation. If you're looking next with the LA Lakers, the Lakers do need a defensive anchor like an Andre Drummond and or as like a JaVale McGee type basis. You could possibly throw out Boogie Cousins as a last resort, but they don't need a 6'9 Blake Griffin to come off the bench to be a center for them. The Lakers need a defensive anchor, and that's what it is. But of course, they would have still loved to get Blake Griffin on their team. Blake Griffin realized with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, he wouldn't get the most potential within that role. So you do have the Brooklyn Nets, who do have DeAndre Jordan at their five, and then they would run Jeff Green at the five from time to time, and they're lacking a true big. Now, Blake Griffin doesn't fill in exactly that defensive anchor that they need, but when you're around only eight deep, really needing some more depth, bench, and veterans on your team, Blake Griffin fills the role. He can play a four, he can play a five. Even being at 6'9", Steve Nash can orchestrate an offense to where they can play small ball. So they're good where they're at as of right there. I do have the Brooklyn Nets representing the Eastern Conference by a long shot. I do expect the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets to represent in the Eastern Conference Finals. If you've been on my channel beginning of the season, I did expect the Boston Celtics or the Brooklyn Nets to represent the East, but the Celtics have been a mess internally, and Danny Ainge has not made those trade acquisitions with those draft assets, let alone draft compensation or any free agent signings. So the Celtics are out of the table within me. The Brooklyn Nets are 100% favored to represent the East due to the James Harden mega trade. Now, sprinkles on the top is the Blake Griffin signing. In the Western Conference, I still have the LA Lakers representing the West, let alone winning the championship. We're going to see now the LA Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets are going to face off for one of a showtime of a 2021 NBA Finals. That'll be one of the Book of the Ages. I fully expect that to go Game 7, and LeBron James will rack up his fifth NBA championship, and he'll finally get another W over not only Kevin Durant, but he'll take down another monster in the NBA Finals to pretty much elevate and glorify his GOAT argument. But getting a little more deep in there, let's jump into here and we'll go a little more deeper into things.
The Nets have won 8 of their last 9 without Kevin Durant, and now they're getting yet another All-Star. Blake Griffin has officially signed with Brooklyn after his contract was bought out by the Pistons over the weekend. Griffin is expected to come off the bench for the Nets, according to reports. So, Shannon, how much more of a threat does he make the Nets to the Lakers?
Man.
Well, I always had the Lakers and Nets going Game 7, the finals anyways. This pretty much just locks that in, as you do have a 4-headed monster with Brooklyn. And I don't care what anyone says Blake Griffin's washed. Listen, when you're number one option on a terrible dumpster fire of the Detroit Pistons in your 4th season and adding with injury, there's no clear mental stability. There's no goal set when it comes to him playing with the Detroit Pistons. I mean, what's your goal? To make the playoffs? That team was not orchestrated the way they would have liked. And when it comes to Blake Griffin, now being with the new user role and being with a winning environment and with veterans, that will be a resurgence in his career. So it is what it is on that part. Listen, the Brooklyn Nets, they're going to be a 4-headed monster. I do not care what anyone says. Blake Griffin will have a huge role, even if he is just playing a Dwight Howard role with the Lakers back within last season. I do expect the LA Lakers and the Nets to match up in the NBA Finals. If you're living in the moment, sure, have the Nets as favorites to win the championship, but the NBA is not going to be very straightforward when it comes to its scripting, its writings, and how it's going to entail this. The Lakers right now are in a quote-unquote downfall. Anthony Davis is out for a month. The NBA wants to quote-unquote expose LeBron and the Lakers to lose pretty much 5 out of the last 8 games or so, to where everyone can keep their eyes off the Lakers repeating and keep their eyes on the Utah Jazz, the LA Clippers, the 76ers, and now the Nets with their acquisitions. The LA Lakers in the long run will have Anthony Davis back. Expect them to get Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee, and or Boogie Cousins due to buyout purposes. The Lakers will get a defensive anchor to fill within those roles. The Brooklyn Nets, they can use another defensive anchor as well. And I would not be shocked if they pull out Andre Drummond to complete that 5-headed monster in Brooklyn. Now you got to remember, what's coming out in a couple months? Space Jam 2. You really think the NBA is going to allow LeBron James to lose in the finals once again, and then Space Jam 2 comes out with his corporate brand? No. LeBron James, due to this narrative, will be taking down the quote-unquote MONSTARS with the Brooklyn Nets. And within a week later, he will have Space Jam 2 premiere out in cinematic theaters. Have the correspondence.
The Nets realized they needed a little bit more help to take down a 36-year-old that can't shoot free throws or can't shoot the ball from 3. Damn, Skip.
He can't.
So why you need all this? You got James Harden. You got
because you can.
No. You know why they did it. Cover the GOAT. Yeah, what everybody do, they load up for the GOAT.
GOAT? They might be loading up for the Clippers.
They don't do that. Okay, load up for the Clippers. Skip, look. Injuries have robbed Blake Griffin of his athleticism.
Lord have mercy, you're right.
One of the greatest high flyers that we've had in the game.
Ever.
Has no dunks.
He jumped over the hood of a car.
Of a Kia. He went from jumping over a Kia to threes.
That was the most overhyped dunk I've seen within the last 2 decades or so, with Blake Griffin jumping over, not over a car, but the hood of a car.
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
He went from Dominique Wilkins to Steph Curry in a matter of 3-4 years. But that's what injuries have done to him. It has robbed him of his athleticism. But what he can do is that when they go small, they can play him at the 5. Now, I don't know if he'll start. I don't know if he'll come off the bench. But they can play him at the 5 and slide KD back to the 4. And so now you go Blake, you go KD, you go James Harden, you go Kyrie, and Joe Harris. Joe Harris will need to be in the closing lineup because he's still their best three-point shooter, and he can space the floor. So I think Blake can give them something. Maybe he eats up some of the minutes that Jeff Green normally plays the 5 when DeAndre Jordan is not in the ball game. So, Skip, I think he adds something to him. Plus, having played in the league as long as he has, I believe the 3 top guys will trust him to be where he's supposed to be, know what he's supposed to do, and do what he's supposed to do. So I think he'll be a great addition for what they need. Skip, they don't need another 20-point scorer. They just need somebody that can get a rebound and occasionally make a shot here or there. But they have enough. But they did need another big. I'm not so sure they're still not in the market for a true big.
Oh, they're most definitely in the market for another big. Don't be shocked when Andre Drummond's bought out. It's either going to be the Lakers or the Nets. Those two teams need a defensive anchor. The Lakers, a lot. They do. The Nets can kind of go away with it because they have 3 all-stars and 2 superstars on the team. But if you're Andre Drummond, if you join the Nets, that's going to be a 5-headed monster.
Maybe an Andre Drummond. Maybe Hassan Whiteside or JaVale McGee. I believe they're still on the market.
And my bad, I forgot about Hassan Whiteside. So it's actually a good situation for either team because, I mean, if you lose out to Andre Drummond, then the other team, the Nets or Lakers, can get Hassan Whiteside, and vice versa.
For another big. But I like this acquisition to them. And I believe he would serve them better because a lot of people have, well, he might go to the Lakers. I just think he's a better fit for them than he would be the Lakers.
So I never thought I would.
Yeah, Blake Griffin to the Lakers didn't make a lot of sense, on a two-dimensional basis, on a user role about him. He's not going to be a true defensive anchor that the Lakers need. Marc Gasol's lacking tremendously. And Montrezl Harrell's around 6'7", 6'8". So Blake Griffin being 6'9", who's not a true center anyways, the Lakers can't play that way. They need a Andre Drummond, Hassan Whiteside, who am I forgetting? A JaVale McGee type basis. Last resort would be Boogie Cousins, who's around 6'11", 6'10". But Blake Griffin won't get it done with the Lakers. On a three-dimensional basis, he wouldn't fit in with LeBron James and/or as well as Anthony Davis due to his user role and team chemistry. Wouldn't make a good fit. And how you would have to defer to a LeBron James type team, it's not Blake Griffin's role. He fits and flows smoothly well with a younger crowd of a Kyrie Irving, a James Harden, a Kevin Durant, and he has played and resided alongside with DeAndre Jordan. It's an ideal fit for him.
Say this about Blake Griffin, but he just makes them a little better.
Yes.
That's all I can give
Yes.
you is a little better.
Yes.
And I'm with you. I think he'll come off the bench. You didn't mention Jeff Green.
Yes.
He's playing still at a very
Yeah.
high level, and they definitely trust Jeff Green.
The difference is Jeff Green can guard multiple positions where Blake is basically relegated to a 4 or a 5.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the irony of this situation to me. I watched just about every game Blake Griffin played at the University of Oklahoma because I'm a fan. But what troubled me was he stayed for 2 years. Well, what superstar stays in college for 2 years? They just don't.
One and done.
They are just counting the days until they can hit the draft. They want to be a professional basketball player. I promise you, he couldn't make a shot at OU more than a foot away from the basket.
Right.
He had no jump shot. He definitely didn't have any three-point range.
Right.
And all he was a tremendous, like a star athlete playing basketball. And again, his father was a famous high school coach, so he's well schooled. His older brother Taylor was kind of his bodyguard for a while. But the book on him in the Big 12 was just rough him up.
Get physical.
Just get him. And if he loses confidence in his 1-foot shot, you got him.
Right.
Right? And slowly but surely, after he goes to the Clippers, he starts to turn into a shooter. And it goes to like he's a 10-foot jump shooter, and then he was a 15-foot, and then he started making his free throws. And all of a sudden, late in his career, he's turned into a pretty good three-point shooter.
He's decent for 3.
I mean, that's kind of what he does.
Right.
But for Detroit, he averaged 12 points and 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Well, the 4 assists is what I would lock into because he knows how to play basketball.
Correct.
So to your point, he's a nice fit because he's a good guy.
Right.
And
he's not going to be asked to what he did when he got to the Clippers.
No.
He's not going to be what they thought they were getting when he first got to Detroit.
Right.
He's a complimentary piece.
He is.
To a very interesting puzzle that the Brooklyn Nets have going.
And they don't have to worry about the money because they were able to get him for the $5.9 million exception because Detroit still owes him $29.3 million. Like Detroit's eating the bulk.
But Skip, he had to give up. But I mean, he had to give up probably $10 million.
Yeah, Blake Griffin, I believe he gave back around $6 to $9 million in that range.
Yeah,
Because,
he did for the buyout.
Right, because Skip, he had an option for damn near $40 million next year. You know he was picking that up.
Okay, and for his career, he's made $255 million, so he's good.
Boy, I wish I was a little taller.
So he's looking, well, there you go. So he's looking at, well, I might be able to win a ring.
Right.
I need to win a ring. So what happened with him and Chris Paul? They clashed because he really thought he was the man and Chris knew he was the man.
Right.
So
it
never worked.
CP3 butt head with a lot of people.
With a lot of people, and that's just what he is.
Did you watch Chris Paul? Skip, not to get off talking. Did you watch Chris Paul chase James Harden down and steal the ball from him?
He did. And it was for real.
Yeah. And James Harden shoved him and almost pushed him out of bounds. I was laughing.
Then James ran back on defense to get in his way because it was legit conflict.
I was like, man, this is an all-star game. Y'all really out there trying to steal the ball from one another.
Yeah, and Kyrie was trying to steal it from everybody.
Everybody. I like, what the hell, Kyrie, when you started playing defense like this?
I don't know where it came from. But the point is that Blake is a nice little piece, and I never thought I would dismiss Blake Griffin as a nice little piece because he's not that old, but he's...
Blake Griffin was a huge piece to this puzzle. I mean, the Nets with their core big three is nice as it is, but their bench is lacking not only what they can do on a user basis on the floor, but a veteran presence. Because you do have a bunch of young cats out there. You do have Landry Shamet. You do have Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's out for within this season. You do have Claxton, who's one of their centers who's not getting that much playing time. And who else they got there? I mean, Joe Harris is still pretty young as it is. Probably missing around 2 to 3 other names. The one cat's name, Tabuli or whatever, I've seen him play. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But he's a young cat out there. He's getting some good minutes. But the Nets need some veteran players on their bench and their locker room and on the court. When you're competing for an NBA championship, the LA Lakers were, if not they were the oldest team in the NBA, but one of the top 3 last season. They won the NBA championship. Veteran teams usually win the championship. Now, the Golden State Warriors back a couple seasons ago with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Dre, they were dynamic. Now, that right there, they were light years ahead. So that can kind of go from once in a while. But you need veteran teams. You need veteran presence. Blake Griffin on the court will be a huge, good impact, let alone when you have a bunch of these young cats out there looking up towards veteran-type presence, leaders in the team. Blake Griffin is a good common force, let alone a legitimate name in that locker room basis. So that was a huge pickup for them either ways.
Up,
yes,
and yet he's in a good spot. Now, did he have a chance to go to another team? Did they even make a phone call on him?
I think the thing is, with Brooklyn, they're the heavy favorites to come out of the East.
Yep.
He could be a piece.
The Brooklyn Nets will be coming to the Eastern Conference. Everybody should know this. I don't want to hear about Philadelphia. Philadelphia does not have enough to take down the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA playoffs in a 7-game series. Ben Simmons does not have a jumper. They're in a double team Joel Embiid in the NBA playoffs if you're the Brooklyn Nets. That's assuming if they do have an Andre Drummond if they pick up, or as well as a JaVale McGee. But even so, if you have DeAndre Jordan on the floor with a Kevin Durant or Blake Griffin starting, they will double team Joel Embiid. They will make him run. They will make his life a living hell. Ben Simmons cannot score from the outside. That's nothing to worry too much upon. And when it comes down to Seth Curry or Danny Green, I'm not sure if they'll be consistent in the NBA playoffs that deep. Seth Curry's been consistent on the Blazers in 2019 when they were in the Western Conference Finals, but he's coming off the bench. You're asking a lot of responsibilities for a bunch of young comers. And the Brooklyn Nets, with that 3-headed monster in addition to Blake Griffin, Philadelphia 76ers will not have enough to overcome the Brooklyn Nets. That's too much. Too much.
So of that puzzle, he's going to get. I mean, Jeff Green averages 23 minutes, 26 minutes as a starter, 23 minutes off the bench. So could he cut into some of those minutes? Could they down to 20 and 20 apiece for those guys?
Yep.
I don't think you need Blake Griffin playing 30 minutes. I don't know if he can play that long. But clearly Detroit, Jeremy Grant.
No. Blake Griffin will be playing around 23 to 26 minutes a night. He does not need to go 30. He's going to play like that Dwight Howard role last season with the Lakers.
is now the new guy there. They got some guys that are young and coming. It's like, okay, we're moving in a different direction. Let's get you somewhere where you can be happy, because what we're trying to do here, you don't fit in our plans.
So why is it that every player who's supposed to be speculated to be on the market right now, like acquirable, every speculation, every story reportedly says they want to go to the Nets?
Yes.
And the Nets have empty spaces. You know, they were playing 2 players short.
Right.
So now they've got one. And to your point, the Drummond rumors are out there that he's more interested in going to the Nets.
We go.
Well, Bayless, that's pretty simple. The Nets, when you brought in that James Harden trade, you let go of Jared Allen, you let go of Karis LeVert. Spencer Dinwiddie is out for the season due to injury. And I believe you lost another player too. So the core foundation of that team and the makeup is different. So there's a lot of holes out there that need to be filled. When it's Kyrie, KD, and a bunch of those young cats, that was going to be more of a gritty team, young basis, and focus on Kyrie and KD. But now adding James Harden and a bunch of holes that are filled, everything's going to be focused on those 3. And now you need to bring in some veterans off the bench. So those are going to lead opportunities for a Blake Griffin to come inside with your franchise. Who else am I forgetting out there? Oh, for an Iman Shumpert and Andre Roberson. These are going to leave some opportunities for them to fill that same thing. The Lakers, their team and foundation's already been set since the free agency. So they already have their 15-man roster all set up. Now the Lakers right now, they're going to leave one roster open spot by letting go of Quinn Cook for another defensive anchor, which they realized they truly need back a JaVale McGee, if anything. So that's why these players are going to the Nets.
Lakers need somebody big.
We gonna get Drummond. We gonna get Drummond on Whiteside.
Yeah.
And we gonna get it's gonna be over.
I think it'll be.
I fully expect the Lakers to get Hassan Whiteside and the Brooklyn Nets to get Andre Drummond. Because if you get Whiteside, you're gonna get that 5-headed MONSTAR, quote unquote MONSTARS with the Brooklyn Nets, which makes sense, the script of the NBA, due to Space Jam 2. And Hassan Whiteside with the Lakers will still be big pit.
Relegated to Whiteside.
We ain't no relegated.
Yep.
Watch what he does when we get him. He give us probably about 12 and 15.
Is Whiteside Dwight? No.
He gonna be better.
Is he JaVale? No.
He gonna be. Watch what he does, Skip. Was Dwight before we got him? No.
Is Dwight right now for Philly? Yes.
He played well because Skip. Memphis just said, no, don't even worry about catching a flight here. They don't even worry about coming here. You work out where you want to go, and we'll try to make it happen. I mean, because think about it, Skip. He is Houston, Atlanta, and Charlotte, Memphis. 4 teams in a year and a half, 2 years. And Lakers say, Bron said, I got it. We took him off the scrap heap, dusted him up, got him a ring, did everybody wanted him. We should have kept it.
And now you miss him.
We do.
You do.
If you're a Lakers fan, you should miss Dwight, but most importantly, JaVale McGee. I mean, he was underrated as could be. He's one of the most underrated centers out there, defensive anchors in the league. Even the Cavaliers try to buy him out, which is amazing. I don't know. If you're a team, JaVale's what you need for Contender.
We should have kept it. We had kept it.
Boy, there's a monster growing in Brooklyn. Whew.
We're calming down.
Yeah.
We're calming down.
Are you
well,
sure
first you got to
about
get
that,
by the
Shannon?
Clippers.
Oh, first of all,
Yeah.
are we sure Kevin Durant is going to be?
Yep, we're sure.
We sure? Okay.
We are completely
Okay.
positive
Okay.
You're
that
sure
the best
about
player
that?
on the planet.
And it off there, I fully expect the LA Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets to face off in an epic NBA Finals that to go 7 games with the MONSTARS against the LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And you should have Hassan Whiteside, if anything, or JaVale McGee, or Boogie Cousins with the Lakers. I expect Andre Drummond to fit with the Nets within a couple weeks, but I'm it off there.